Dan Hooker versus Mateusz Gamrot is in the works for UFC 305, but who to win this fight? Well, before we talk about who to win this fight, let's take a look at their latest performances, in which Dan Hooker fought Claudio Puelles, in which both started off very slow in round 1 until Dan Hooker hurt Claudio with some nasty kicks to the body, and Claudio couldn't continue in round 2.
And grapple with him. It looks more like a jiu-jitsu.
Oh, there it is again. That might do it. That'll do it.
After this, Dan Hooker went to fight Jalen Turner, in which both landed some great shots and kicks in round 1. Both got rocked in round 2.
To the ground. You saw him right there. Hooker to close the range, though. He's got to move his head.
Dan Hooker then dropped Jalen Turner in round 3, and Dan Hooker ended up taking it by decision.
Dan the Hangman!
Let's take a look at Gamrot's latest performances, in which he fought Rafael Bizev, in which both did great in round 1 until Rafael couldn't continue due to an injury in round 2, and obviously Gamrot ended up taking it.
Oh, he broke his foot on the elbow there. He landed it on the elbow.
After this, Gamrot went on to fight Rafael dos Anjos, in which Rafael dos Anjos dropped Gamrot in round 1.
Beautiful wizard.
But then Mateusz brought it back, took control of the whole entire fight with his wrestling and grappling, and ended up taking it by decision.
By unanimous decision, Mateusz!
Now, here's the thing about this fight. I believe that the UFC did Dan Hooker wrong with this fight, and this fight also makes little sense for Gamrot, and that is for many reasons, but the big reason is simply because Gamrot's style of fighting doesn't favor Dan Hooker's style of fighting, on top of the fact that Gamrot is ranked number 5, has been pretty active, and is on a 3-fight winning streak. Meanwhile, Dan Hooker is on the edge a little bit, since he is ranked number 11, and he only had one fight in 2023, which was his last fight, and although he is on a 2-fight winning streak, that doesn't really matter because that was some time ago, so it really can't be used in this fight with Gamrot. So now, how's this fight going to play out? Well, let me just say that I feel bad for Dan Hooker and the fans that are going to be watching this fight, because this fight's almost guaranteed to be a boring fight with Gamrot grabbing somebody's nuts again, and you really can't hate Gamrot for this. You have to hate the game, because this is MMA, not kickboxing. So although a lot of people would have liked to see Dan Hooker put on a good performance, that's most likely not going to happen. So in the end, I got Gamrot winning this fight, but I see why the UFC hasn't fighting lower ranked fighters, and that is because he is not the best when it comes to putting on a good performance. But at the same time, at some point, the UFC is going to have to give him somebody who's ranked higher than him, or they might have to give him a title shot.